Hey everyone, welcome back. Today we're taking a look at the Broadway Subway Project as it is in December of 2023. Being the final update of 2023, I've picked out a few shots from last December to compare and see how much progress was made in a year. For those of you who are new to this project, it's a 5.7 kilometer extension of SkyTrain's Millennium Line with 6 new stations at a cost of $2.8 billion. Major construction started in May of 2021 with a scheduled completion of early 2026. Starting off at the east end of the project, the guideway for the 700-meter elevated section is nearing completion. With the deck almost done, just the final few sections of small walls that define each track area are left to be poured. You can clearly see these walls here, where the cross points and center storage track are. Where the old line meets the new, the last bit of rail has been removed. The end of the line has also been covered in protective mesh. This may become the rail prep area, where sections of rail are welded together to form the continuously welded rail. Rail installation is scheduled to begin in 2024. Further along, where sections of parking garage were removed to make room for pillars, those removed sections are now being rebuilt. The final layers of parking surface are being applied. From the same parking lot, you can see just how close the guideway has been built to existing buildings. Tunnel ring segments are still in storage underneath the guideway and at the works yard just off Great Northern Way. Over 2,600 complete tunnel rings have been installed so far, but more on that in a bit. Compared to 12 months ago, the guideway has come a long way. What was 21 headless columns is now a nearly complete guideway structure. Approaching the tunnel portal area, a new access road is opened underneath the guideway to help redirect trucks and construction equipment away from Emily Carr University and reduce conflicts with pedestrians. Directly beside East First Ave, crews are laying more rebar for the portal. The sidewalk on the south side of the street is still open to pedestrians and provides a great place to safely view the work. Heading over to the main station site for Great Northern Way, we can see the cut and cover section is making good progress. With another section recently poured, a new temporary road has been built over another recently completed section. Compared to a year ago, a lot has changed. The station entrance floor is complete, with waterproofing and interior walls starting to take shape. More forms are in place for the eventual concourse level as well. Compared to other stations, Great Northern Way's concourse level only runs about 2/3 the length of the platform. That's mostly due to how the station entrance is offset from the platforms, which provides more space for rooms closer to street level, including the bike parkade. Up on street level, new graphics with updated photos of the project are going up. Over at Mount Pleasant Station, work is coming along nicely. A year ago, the main floor slab was still under construction, while the TBMs were still boring the first sections of tunnel. A lot has changed in the year since. The station entrance has had its next level poured, and some of the bracing that holds back the pit walls has been removed. The holes visible in the slab are where the elevators and escalators will eventually be installed. However, the real change is in the station box, where the concourse level has been poured. Zooming in, you can see the tops of the columns sticking through the concrete floor. Roughly half of the concourse level has been built so far. The tunnel portals on the east end of the station have had a significant amount of rebar installed, tying them into the station box wall that will be poured in one go. For the first time, we can see the conveyor belt moving and carrying spoil from Phyllis, who is boring the westbound tunnel. The emergency exit on the west end of the station is having rebar installed for the walls. While on site, looking up we saw something rather unexpected being craned through the air. At Broadway City Hall, construction on the longest station box at nearly 200 meters is still ongoing. Since both TPMs have left the station, progress has been made on the station box walls and the first pillars. Looking down, we can see crews installing more rebar and the forms used for creating the station box walls. Compared to a year ago, it's a completely different site. By far the most interesting work to watch here is for the interconnections between the new station and the existing Canada Line station. In the last video update, I showed a drawing of how the connections will be, but didn't do the best job explaining it, so allow me to try again. This cross-section looks towards the existing station from the east. The current station entrance will still be the only one, here. If you're traveling to the Millennium Line from street level, you'll enter here and then take these two escalators down to the new concourse level. If you're coming from the northbound Canada Line platform, there's a new passageway from the platform that will open here, where you then take one escalator down to the new concourse. You can see that new passageway opened up here. You can also see where a knockout panel will be to access the new elevator lobby. That's the lighter gray area you can see. Coming from the southbound Canada Line platform, there's a new escalator on the west side of the station that takes you to this passageway that goes underneath the Canada Line that brings you out onto the new concourse level. And here's a 3D render that shows it all laid out in a clear way. Hopefully this helps. On the west side, the excavated area for the southbound platform connections has had more wall sections poured. Another part of the sloped floor for the stairs and where the escalators will eventually go has been poured as well. The wall that looks like it's just been cleaned is where the connection under the Canada Line will eventually be dug out. Excavation of this will mostly be done at night while the line isn't running to reduce risk. When complete, 12 new escalators and 5 new elevators will be installed at Broadway City Hall. And here's what it looked like a year ago when crews were still working on relocating the storm drains and sewer line. A lot has been done in the past 12 months. Oak VGH is the hot spot on the line today, as we finally catch up with the first TBM, Elsie, who's been boring the eastbound tunnel. Jumping back into a graphic, Elsie arrived at Oak VGH on October 28th, and was shuttled through the station box while undergoing maintenance. She left for South Granville just a couple days after filming on December 18th, whereas Phyllis arrived on October 12th, departed Oak VGH on November 16th, and then arrived at South Granville on December 20th. By the time both TBMs arrived at Oak VGH, combined, they've laid more than 2,600 complete tunnel ring segments. As hotly debated online, the TBMs won't be completing the tunnels by the end of 23 as originally planned. The delay is partly due to the 5-week concrete strike over the summer of 2022 that pushed back the launch date. Both TBMs also spent an extended period of time at Broadway City Hall, but haven't been able to find a credible source as to why. Tunneling is now expected to be finished before the end of March 2024. Meanwhile, station box walls are being built, and the station entrance is almost ready to have its first level poured. A year ago, main excavation was still underway. It's been a very productive year at this site. Also, the parking and suites across the street is still standing, with more asbestos removal underway. Just a few days before Phyllis arrived at South Granville, crews were still working on the station box walls. South Granville has always been a challenging station to shoot, as the only open sidewalk is on the opposite side of the street from the open pit. Without a drone, we wouldn't be able to see crews working on the floor down below. A year ago, this wasn't so much a problem, as crews were still relatively close to the surface while undergoing the early stages of excavation. Being the only station on the line to have a fully integrated tower on top, so far, construction on the 39-story tower always makes for a great sight. Buckets full of concrete were being craned up to the top of the tower for another floor pour. Over the next few years, this block will have 6 towers built on it. It's great having high-density areas going up only steps from the station entrance. At ground level, the station entrance in the tower looks more polished as well. While last year workers at Arbutus were still in the early excavation phase, things have progressed quickly. Main excavation has been completed, and the first major base slab was poured just a couple days prior to filming. On the east end of the station box, we can see the prep work for where the TBMs will break through in a few months. The large steel circle structures that reinforce the tunnel entrances are being welded together up on street level. You can see the tie-in points where rebar will be connected and then encased in concrete. While there's a lot of fencing and mesh to keep the public safe, we can still see down into the station box below, where more orange waterproof lining is being installed. Workers are also installing the lining in the station entrance area. While it's being used as the worksite now, this is where a bus loop will be built that will service the truncated 99B line to UBC, and maybe someday, a streetcar that runs along the Arbutus corridor, but more on that in a later video. Anyways, that concludes this look at construction on the Broadway Subway Project in December of 2023. Next month I've got a bit of a different video coming out that's looking at long-term planning and how cities, TransLink, and the provincial government can be quite sneaky with hiding plans in plain sight. Anyways, as always, thanks for watching. I'll see you next time.